Please welcome Managing Director and Country Leader UK and Ireland, Michael Green.
Straight away, I've done that wrong. Start again. Right, good morning, everyone. Welcome to London Data and AI World Tour. It's fantastic to see so many of you here. I don't know what's, quite frankly, in the water for UK and Ireland, but we're expanding at a rate of knots. It truly is incredible. And what I'm really pleased to say is from the UK and Ireland's perspective now, we are now officially the largest Data and AI World Tour globally for the company, only eclipsed by the actual summit itself. So it truly is awesome when we look at the size of the community that's taking place. And what I also noticed today is there's only one thing that we're actually competing with, and that is the fact that there is a sumo wrestling event that's going on in the Royal Albert Hall this morning. But I'm pretty sure that we could do a much better welcome than what's going on in the Royal Albert Hall. So that welcome was a little bit quiet. I know it's first thing in the morning on a Thursday, so we're going to do that welcome again. So good morning, everyone. Welcome to Data and AI World Tour London. Very good. Now, I was going to bust into some dance moves there, but to be fair, I think we leave that to our politicians to do nowadays. But what you also probably noticed is as my walk-on sort of music was inspired by Coldplay. So we're going to take things up a little bit of a notch. If fireworks wasn't enough to have on the stage, we are now going to go more festival, more concert style. So on your seats and beside you, you should notice that you've all got a lovely glow-in-the-dark wristband. So I'm going to ask you if you can all now pop on your wristband, please, if it's not on already. Hopefully it is. There's a lot of keen people in the front. Fantastic. Right, so backstage crew, I'm now going to ask you to activate the wristbands. Look at this. Now, I did say this is amazing, but you can't really see what I can see. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to do a selfie. And I'm going to show all of you. So, hands in the air, everyone. That is nuts. Okay, right. We will post that online later. But you're going to get more involved with the wristbands throughout the show. And don't worry, there will be no zoomies. There's no kiss camera, so you're all pretty safe with me. Don't worry. I'm sure a couple of people will be pleased to hear that. Okay, right, let's get into it. So why is the UK and Ireland the fastest growing hub and the world tour that we have here? That's because this region thrives on the energy, creativity to build new things. UK's innovation stems from a very rich culture on connectivity and networking. And if you look historically to what we've achieved, lots of countries and cities admire about some of the inventions and innovations that we do. Look at the transatlantic cables. They're still in use today. Yes, they've been upgraded, but it powers the financial services in what we bring to the modern world. The London Underground system, okay, might not be popular by everyone every day of the week, but it is truly amazing when you look at the amount of people that are shuttled around London, and loads of countries look at those innovations. But that innovation to connect people is super important and continues today. And that is what the World Tour is all about. It's about connecting, connectivity, networking, connecting our developers, data scientists, analysts, business leaders, and innovators as a whole together. Right, the other thing I wanted to show you, last year, for those that were here, so let's do a quick straw poll, actually. How many people were here, if I asked the wristbands to be lit up again, how many were here, is this their first world tour? Put it that way. Let's put your hands up in the air. Can we light the wristbands? Can you see that? Yeah, well, okay. If that's everyone's first world tour, I was talking about 10 people last year, so that's amazing, right? But I know for a fact that it's about 40% of the room that's here, which is pretty incredible. And as I said, as that community continues to thrive. 60% obviously being here for multiple years. And last year, I announced our new European headquarters in London in Windmill Street. A phenomenal building, a great building to be the heart of data and AI for London. But my facilities team share the same pain that my marketing team share when I utter the immortal words of, "I've got an idea." And one of my last ideas is, we are expanding at a rate of knots. We're going to need a bigger boat, and that's what's going to happen. We're now well over 500 employees in the UK, and we've got continued designs to accelerate at pace over the next 2 or 3 years. But we're also investing heavily into the region, into the economy. There will be an article published that I believe came out this morning at 8 a.m. where I'll be talking about that we're investing over $10 million into UK and Europe to ensure the future of AI talent, making sure that over 100,000 people are trained in AI in the UK and Ireland alone. We're proud to participate in UK's DSIT program to make sure that public sector employees get their hands around AI and ML. And also the biggest thing that I would say is amazing for us as well is that we're partnering with universities. We're making sure that the next generation and people coming through is really well versed in AI, machine learning, and anything that we kind of also want to open it out to people that want to retrain as well. It's not just for that new generation, but we're talking to LSE, we're talking to Salford, we're talking to Sheffield, and when I was talking to some of my Irish friends yesterday, Unity College Dublin as well, participating. So we are really making sure it's open to all. Okay, so as I said, maybe I'm slightly biased in my role that London is the perfect place, but London is the perfect place to kick off the AMEA Data and AI World Tour. Because as I said, at the heart of what we do and the heart of this event, it focuses on innovation. Those who want to transform raw ideas into data breakthroughs. And often I challenge people and challenge customers to say, it's not a question of what can data and AI do, but what can we actually build with it? Where can we evolve? Where can we innovate? And that's the constant area of curiosity that we need to really push ourselves and push our organizations. Because genuinely, I believe we are at a very exciting moment of our lifetime to just move away from the traditional to move into the more exciting areas. And as I said, continue to innovate and push the boundaries. Now, when I look at what's happening today, the amount of speakers that you're going to hear from, the people that's going to come up here, we are super proud on that acceleration that we're doing in the UK and AI market because we're now in over 50% of the FTSE 100 companies that trust and partner with ourselves. We don't take that lightly, and a big thank you to those organizations, but also to the challengers. When you look at the big companies, the Reckitt Benckises, the Shells of the world, leading Irish organizations like Aer Lingus that we're working with, you heard from Virgin Atlantic at the Data and AI Summit, Flow Health, you'll see how they've moved forward. You know, it is amazing because this type of technology is open to all. We really want to see that innovation, whether you're a startup to whether you're a FTSE 100, and that's what you'll hear and you'll see today. But you're also going to hear directly from customers themselves, not just from Databricks. I'm super delighted to have Meggie and Dennis that's going to come on a fireside chat later today to talk about how Barclays is modernizing the bank. Why Lakehouse and Agentbricks is allowing them to scale their organization. You'll hear from Dennis about, from an easyJet perspective, on how they're working with Databricks and how they rebuilt the revenue management system within the airline using Lakebase and Databricks Apps. You know, both these organizations, you're talking about critical systems, and the importance of those changes is huge, which is often why transformation doesn't happen, because people have that fear factor of actually, oh, what happens if it doesn't go right, doesn't go wrong. So we take that trust and partnership very seriously. And the main message that I would say to what you hear today, and when we challenge these conversations is, today we're not just keeping up with change, we are shaping the change. Right, as I begin this event and I move into the bands and everything that we're going to take it forward, I want you to take inspiration of what you hear today. You are part of this community, whether you're new or whether you've been here for the last 2 or 3 years. We have over 50 customers talking for us today, and that is incredible for a one-day event. And the reason I want to call that out is I just want to take a little bit of humility to the aspect of, trust me, it's not easy for some people to get up and talk on stage on what they want to do. It can be nerve-wracking, it can be daunting, whether you are in a breakout area talking to 10 people, 20, 100, or thousands like we are today. I just want to give a big round of applause and thank you to all the speakers that we're going to hear today. So please do bring your hands together for that. Okay, now some of you may remember last year that like fireworks and things, I kind of like to push the boundaries a little bit. So we had a t-shirt cannon last year, not for the faint-hearted, and I will say quite a lot of people got involved. One person dived off the side of their chair to catch a t-shirt. Another person had a brisk haircut with a t-shirt across it. So maybe I might be a little bit more safe and compliant this year. So hence why we're going to use the bands. So I'm going to ask for all the bands to be lit up again and for everyone to raise their hands because we're going to go into a live raffle. And this genuinely is totally random, right? So what's going to happen is we're going to extinguish these bands out slowly across the piece, and there will be 5 lucky golden winners raising. My only ask is, if it is an employee that's got the band in their hand, please do hand it, because this is going to get a Databricks coveted gilet, which I'm sure we all want for this autumn's fashion. So, okay, on 3. 3, 2, 1, go. Please hold your hands up. Who's the 5? Keep your hands up so you can get the tickets. Okay, thank you very much. That did sound like a rendition of Star Wars, but okay, we've got the 5 lucky winners. Right, so with that, let's keep the momentum going. I've told you about the UK and Ireland, but now I would like to bring to the stage the SVP and GM for AMEA to talk to you about how we're continuing that momentum right across Europe. So welcome to the stage, Samuel Bonamigo.
One more time.
Mike, thank you very much, Mike. Nice introduction. Thank you and congratulations for a great opening. I really love the fireworks, definitely. And I like the gilet, which is a French word also, anyway. Look, I am absolutely delighted to be here with you today in London. And as Mike mentioned in his introduction, I'd like to say thank you for being with us here today. Thank you for your trust. Thank you for your engagement. This would not have been possible without you. So absolutely pleased to be with you today and to drive this, one of the largest data and AI conference in London. And I'd like to share with you few information about what we are seeing globally and here in EMEA. We keep growing, we keep scaling, we keep increasing the capacity of Databricks EMEA. We are going to end up this calendar year with close to 2,000 employees in Europe. And of course, we have go-to-market resources, salespeople, field engineering resources, professional services resources, marketing, cross-functions. But we are also investing in Europe on the engineering resources. We do have people in Amsterdam, we do have resources in Belgrade, Berlin, and in the Nordics region. And the role is very important because we are here to listen to you, to get your feedback, and see how we could improve the data intelligence platform because they are working very closely with the headquarters. And we see a great momentum with more than 20,000 customers worldwide. But what does it mean for us in Europe, Middle East, and Africa? More than 300,000 customers, monthly active users on the platform. And this number is growing double-digit quarter after quarter. So we pay attention to the users by bringing also lots of trainings, lots of enablements to the technical people, but also more and more to the business folks to see how they could take advantage of this new AI momentum. But it cannot only be about us. It's also about the ecosystem. I joined the company almost 3 years ago, and since I joined, growing and developing the ecosystem has been a high priority for us. So it would not have been possible to scale without the GSIs, without the ISVs, without the technology and built-on partners, including the data providers. And you are going to be able to talk to them, most of them at the expo, just after the keynote. And I like to highlight few of these partnerships. If you follow a little bit the news, we have communicated a few weeks ago on a very interesting partnership with a very important data providers, London Stock Exchange. So it's going to help our customers to increase the data quality within the data intelligence platform. But we have also communicated at the beginning of the fiscal year on a very important partnership with a company called SAP. And I would assume in the room we have lots of SAP customers. And we have created a new product with SAP called Business Data Cloud, which means you have access to Databricks within SAP, which means also cross-cloud, Microsoft, AWS, GCP. You are going to be able to transfer the data both ways between SAP and Databricks. Absolutely outstanding partnership. And it has created a massive lift in the different industries and countries. But today, it's about AI momentum, AI acceleration. And same, when we talk about the partnership, we have communicated also on a very strategic partnership with a company called OpenAI. Multi-year partnership. What does it mean for Databricks customers? It means you can take the best of both worlds. With no extra data setup, with no extra data movements, with the same level of processing of the data, you can take advantage on the Databricks intelligence platform of OpenAI to create new agents, to create new applications at the right speed, at the right scale. Absolutely outstanding. And it makes us kind of unique. What makes us unique? Of course, I talked about these partnerships. I could also mention the platform strategy, the product roadmap, the strong innovation DNA. I've been with this company more than 3 years. I have never seen a company adding new innovations on a platform at this level of speed. But I will also mention the open source strategy. Today, it's all about flexibility. It's all about scalability. And Databricks is fully committed to keep this open source DNA. And in the new era of the agents and AI, and Arsalan is going to talk a lot about it, what about the governance? What about the security? And Unity Catalog in this moment is absolutely a game changer. And I would like you to really assess what does it mean when we talk about the governance and the security of the data. And it does not come from me. It comes from market analysts. Look at the Gartner Magic Quadrant behind us. We are top right corner, and we are alone. We are alone, and it makes us feel that the data intelligence platform is world-class. If you are a customer of us, you are working with a world-class platform on data foundations and AI acceleration. And today, it's all going to be about these two angles. From a business point of view, what does it mean? More than 20,000 customers worldwide, across all market segments, all industries. We are serving more than 9 industries with a key and strong focus, including digital native businesses. And today, our team has built lots of content. And you are going to have, after the keynote, the possibility to go to industry track with more than 50 customer testimonials. Very important, because the aim of today also is to create connections, learn, share the knowledge. So I wish you a beautiful day. I would like to thank you for your attention, and I'm going to say back to you, Mike. Thank you very much.
Outstanding, outstanding. Thank you, Samuel. As you heard there, the momentum is huge. It's not just about the people, it's not about the growth, it's not about the revenue, it's about the innovation, it's about the products, it's about the change, it's about what we can all do together. So, as you see on the screen, in a second, you will see that we should have the QR code when it appears, but if it doesn't appear, you have it on your badge. So you can scan the QR code to make sure that you have access to the full agenda today. As I said, 50 customer speakers, packed sessions, industry sessions. It is a very, very busy day, right? So please do scan that if you haven't got it on your badge. You should have it on your badge, otherwise you wouldn't be in the room. Okay, a big thank you to our sponsors. This list continues to grow every single year. It is incredible, the momentum, the speed of the ecosystem, the partnerships, the conversations that people want to have getting into the ecosystem, whether it's actually delivering on the data and AI innovation or actually creating the data and AI innovation and how they go to market. So a big, big thank you to our sponsors. As I said, it's exciting, it continues to grow, and this list continues to get bigger and bigger. But also, I do want to talk about two others. London likes to lead the way in lots of things that we do. So this year, we've extended the data and AI journey that we bring to you. At the end of today, you will all be part of a networking session where you can collaborate and you can network. But for those that want to continue the conversation and the journey, we have put 2 official after parties on. We're doing this because we want to test the water to see, and that's not just a pun as is a boat. We're doing this just to see, does this make sense and you want to do this? So please do feedback to us. Now, I will say this, though. The boat party sponsored by Unified, Dufresne, Kubrick, and Manuka, that's already sold out. That's sold out before we even open the tour, right? So you have to be there. You have to get there quickly to get in with these things. The second thing that we've put is the Wharf Party. That is close to sellout, so if you haven't registered for that, please do. But let me caveat it with this. As with most events, we will always oversubscribe certain events because in case people don't turn up and drop out. So do not assume because you are registered that you're on the boat, you're in the Wharf Party. Please do turn up and get on there. It will be first come. Because if not, health and safety, we have to cap that. But again, a big thank you to Sigma, Calibri Digital, Prophecy and Parity, Telefonica, and Dun & Bradstreet for sponsoring these events. We really, really look forward to them. So let's get into it. Let's ramp it up. Let's get into the keynote. You've heard it and met him before for those that have been here, but really looking forward to hearing a lot more into the innovation that Samuel was talking about. So I'd now like to welcome to the stage our Senior Vice President, Co-Founder, and Head of Field Engineering, Arslan Tabagolu.
Thank you, Michael. So let me get it out of the way. It's always hard coming up after him. I don't have any bracelets lighting up. I don't have any fireworks on here. So unfortunately, that's all of that sort. You're only going to get that with Michael. One, really excited to be here today. I think Michael already talked about kind of the scale that things are running on. And want to spend a bunch of time today talking about democratizing data intelligence. So what does that actually mean? So Databricks has been around, for a fairly long time now, I think a little over 12 years. And we talk about this notion of we want to democratize data and AI together, that you have to bring all of those to enterprises and to the masses. So what does that mean? How do you go about that actual journey? So first, this is a world that we see many, many organizations kind of sit in. The reality is that a proliferation of tools and systems has been built up over time. And what that means is that data is spread out in many, many different places. And by the way, it's typically in proprietary formats and locked in. And security is really, really hard around it. So what that means is you've got lock-in and you've got high costs as well. So what's the right path forward for this? First off is this notion of you've got to start with open formats, so unifying the data. One key principle that you should take away as any enterprise is the era of giving your data to a vendor, Databricks or anybody else, and putting it in a proprietary format should be over. Your data should be sitting in an open format, which means that there's no more migrating to other systems, no more worried about that lock-in, and the reality is that you could support many, many different systems without having to pay a tax to anybody. Second is that you need this notion of bringing governance to data and AI. Not fragmented in all of different places, not for one system or another, but you need this notion of unified governance that cuts across all of your different assets and supports all of the different systems. Now, governance is one of those things that it's become this popular word that everybody talks about. Everybody talks about catalogs. For those who've seen Oprah, it's like you get a catalog, everybody has a catalog. Sounds like tons of fun. But in practice, it's actually off from what most enterprises need, right? Normally when people tell you that, hey, we have governance and catalog, it means this. It means it supports data sitting, only just structured data sitting in tables. And they're going to allow you to audit, and they give you access control. This is nowhere near what you actually need to be successful. So when we say unified governance with Unity Catalog, what do we actually mean? First off, it means that it needs to be across kind of all of your assets, right? So not just, sitting on one or the other. That means you have tables, you have files, especially in the era of AI. You have a bunch of unstructured data. You have your models, you have your notebooks, you have your dashboards, you have everything sitting there. It should work across all of it. Second, remember, as I mentioned, it needs to support data sitting in open formats. And then beyond that is, okay, great, I have access control. That's really important. I don't take that away from it. But you need many other things, right, for all sorts of capabilities. So you can see this talking about things like discoverability, sharing, higher level, business semantics. At the end of the day, the goal of governance is not to basically lock down data. The goal of governance is how do you make all of your assets consumable? That means that they need to be high quality. That means that people need to be able to discover them, share them, and work on them in a way that makes sense for the business. The other big thing is unified governance sounds great, but also that notion of somebody tells you you are going to move all of your data into one place is just not a reality for any enterprise. So instead, what you really care about is the following. One, you want to be able to support your data sitting in kind of many, many different places. You have data sitting in other data stores and transactional data systems. Some of you will still have some data sitting on-prem, versus the cloud as well. Unity Catalog supports all of those to give you a single pane of glass. But then equally important, right? From a Databricks perspective, we've always been big believers in things being open, right? And not just because we were a bunch of hippies from Berkeley, but because it is actually really, really important to make sure that you are supporting all of the new systems. So what this means is not only do you support all of those data sources, but then you can bring whatever engine that you want that can basically, Unity Catalog will make sure that it supports the policies, it shows all those data sets, but you can use any of those engines that you want to read and write and access all of those data sets. So that's a really, really big deal, right? So we talked about open data formats, and unified governance. Now, if you look at the data intelligence platform from Databricks, there's a lot of parts. It starts with the open data formats underneath. It then has Unity Catalog for governance and a number of capabilities that we'll walk through today. So we've heard me use this term data intelligence, and it sounds good, it's a buzzword, but what does it actually mean? The reality was that when AI came out, you kind of had people talk about data on one side of the spectrum, and then AI was this completely other thing on the other side. The reality is that you should bring them together, and in that world, the whole is much greater than the sum of the parts. More specifically, when we talk about data intelligence, I think that there's two aspects. You have all of this different data and assets. You want to use AI and understanding of that data to make it available to everybody in your organization. And then second, you want to then take kind of the data that you need, because enterprise AI is about customizing things and tailoring it to your domain. You want to use that to be able to build new AI capabilities that you use to power your products and interactions with customers as well. So in practice, right, what does that look like? That sounds like a lot of words. On the data side, how are we actually using AI to make it much more accessible to users? Genie is this concept that will actually allow all users with natural language to interact with their data, ask questions, and get insights. An assistant is built into the platform. Think about it almost like a co-pilot-like capability that as you're developing, building applications, it gives you significant speed up from a productivity perspective. On the AI side, there is a number of capabilities that we have, and I'll talk about a little bit more detail in terms of all the building blocks that you need to deliver AI applications. And one of the important parts about Databricks is helping you future-proof that investment. So regardless of if the answer was 2 years ago, everybody was going to be a prompt engineer, and then a year ago, the answer to everything was RAG. 6 months later, it was fine-tuning. It's saying we'll support all of those mechanisms, and by the way, all of the different model providers, whether it's OpenAI or Anthropic or Llama or Gemini and the like. And so if you look at it on the platform, there's many of our users, nearly all of them, are leveraging AI capabilities. And that means both classic ML. I know it's not as cool to talk about ML now. The answer to everything needs to be AI, but many of the world's applications are still driven by classic ML, and you can see over 90% of our customers use that, and a large majority are using generative AI to deliver new capabilities as well. So today, that was a high-level piece. What are some of the key themes that I want to talk about today? One, how do we actually simplify production agents, right? We've gone from LLMs being the answer to everything is agents and agentic things are going to solve everything, but how do you actually simplify this and get those agents into production? Two, how do we actually prepare and lay the foundation for intelligent applications? Great, you built AI, but how are you going to deliver it to end users? And then third, how do we actually implement this data intelligence concept that I talked about? All right? So let's first start with this notion of simplifying production agents. And before getting into it, I always love the fact of having actual customers who are doing this in practice talk about it. So a quick introduction from one of our great customers, Flow Health, talking about how they are using AI to transform their business.
Flow is #1 health and fitness application in the world. We support women around the world with tailored insights. We have more than 80 million of monthly active users. Flow mission is to empower women around the globe with personalized health insights. Previously, before Databricks, we had very fragmented data stack, and basically it was very hard for us to find insights and siloed data sources. Once we onboarded Databricks, we connected everything into one unified platform when all data is available and everyone can use this data for their own purposes. We got access to early version of AI Agent Bricks. We built like a new model based on Tower techniques, which basically use LLM judges and static data generation to improve open source models like Llama. And basically we are fine-tuning these large language models to make our product even better. We are using Agent Bricks to double our medical accuracy and safety. And basically we were able to get higher quality of the models. And now we see much better accuracy, much better safety, privacy, and security, and it helps us a lot to achieve our high standards. At the same time, it's quite low cost for us, and basically it means that we can deliver these models to bigger audience, and we can empower more women, more users around the world with this functionality.
Okay, so you heard Floel talk a lot about this concept of AI and Agent Bricks, right? So Agent Bricks was one of the blocks on here for actually delivering AI capabilities. Let's talk a little bit about what that means and why it's important. I alluded to it earlier, right? We've now come to the era, many will define 2025 as the year of everybody talked about agents, right? And the agent hype is actually absolutely everywhere. Right? It doesn't matter what the question is, the answer is agents will solve it, right? And everybody's talking about it. How do I build agents? How do I get it out? This sounds great. Let me talk about all the transformation I'm going to drive on it. The reality is, though, it's really, really hard. In many places, when you talk to folks, where are you along the journey? It's usually, well, I have a couple of toy examples, or I've done X, but it's actually really hard for me to actually get high-quality agents out into production. Now, why is that, right? Given that we've talked about it, there's a lot of focus. There's a couple of primary reasons that nearly every enterprise I talk to talks about facing difficulties with as they're trying to get out to production. So one, you've got to understand how are agents performing. Remember, an agent is basically, an automated system that you have to perform a task for you, and it's a specific task. And you need to have some way of defining what good looks like. On certain things like, hey, did you help me, in the more consumer world of, did you do a good job of planning my travel itinerary? Figuring out what good looks like is easier. But in kind of complex domains, being able to define what does good look like and measure it is very hard. It's what we refer to as eval. Second is great. You've figured it out. I know, I've defined what accuracy means in my use case. And I'm right now, my accuracy is 50%. How do I actually increase that? there's tons and tons of knobs. The space is moving so fast, so all of the techniques are changing on a regular basis. So great, I have 50%, I need to get to 90% accuracy. How do I actually do that? And then lastly, like, how do I actually balance cost versus quality? We're now getting to the era where people talk about business outcomes and what is the ROI, and there's certain use cases where you say, look, it's worth it for me to spend extra money to get to those last 8 or 10% of accuracy, and there's ones that it's not. But how do you balance and trade off between these? These are all really, really hard problems, and you got to remember, in most organizations, there's not hordes of thousands upon thousands of ML engineers running everywhere. It's oftentimes basically business users and domain experts who are trying to build these applications. So how does Agentbricks help with this? First off, instead of just giving you a blank slate and just saying, figure out how you're going to do it, it says, look, there's a common set of things that you're usually going to do. So let's start with having you tell me what is that most common task that you're going to do. And think about this as a factory of common types. As an example, information extraction is really just a fancy way of saying you have a bunch of documents, like imagine you have a bunch of insurance claim documents, and you need to take them, ingest them, and put them in structured format so you can run analytics on it. Knowledge Assistant just says, I have a bunch of documents that I want to build a chat bot around, and I want you to be able to ask questions of it. And then so on and so on. But there's a very common set of tasks that people usually want to do. And it says, if you start by telling me at a high level what you want to do, then we have a large, basically research team that's constantly working on what the latest and greatest techniques are. Then I'm going to do the rest for you. So just come in here and just describe the high-level outcome that you want, right? So this says, build me a system that answers questions about the automotives we offer. It's not complicated. It's not requiring some ridiculous level of technical detail and understanding. Once you do that, because I know this is the system that you wanted and you give me that high-level piece, what I can start doing is do the underlying work for you. It will actually create what are known as LLM judges. So it's creating for you a benchmark based on what you said. You might have said, what I really care about is my customer service agent satisfying the customer, seeing that they're happy at the end. Based on your feedback, it's going to create that evaluation piece. Second, it's going to go through and automatically optimize everything. And then third, it's going to give you this feedback of, here's a curve. Here's how you can trade off between increased cost and better quality or the otherwise. When it gives it to you as an end user, the user gets to look at that, and it just gives it feedback on, this is what you got right, this is what you didn't, and the system just learns from that. The result of this has been, we've seen organizations say, we now have agents that we've gotten out far faster than we could before, at a much higher volume, with an accuracy that actually drives meaningful business outcomes for us. So, while slides are great, I oftentimes think what's even better is be able to see one of these systems in action. So with that, let me welcome my colleague Amber to the stage to give a demo of Agentbricks.
These intros are fun. Hi, everyone. Thank you, Arsalan, for the great introduction to Agentbricks. And now I'm really excited to show you a demo for our multi-agent supervisor. So with this Agentbrick, we're going to be in the Novel Ideas bookworm. I'm just going to... Hello? Okay. Now, the Novel Ideas bookstore it's a small bookstore, it's independent, but it's able to compete with a lot of larger booksellers because it has such great bookstore operations and customer service. And this provides employees with instant inventory tracking, intelligent recommendation tools, so it really enables them to quickly assist customers. So if I'm an employee at Novel Ideas, and a customer comes up to me and says, hey, I'm looking for this book, is it in stock? And I know it might not be in stock. What I'm going to want to do is first see if it's in stock. If it's not in stock, give a different recommendation. I don't want my customer to leave empty-handed. So in the interest of time and bandwidth, I'm going to post the question in here first. So I think we just sold the last copy of the 5th season. When is the restock, and what should I grab for the customer while they wait? And just while that loads, I want to get into what's behind this multi-agent supervisor, what's really powering it under the hood. So you can add up to 20 different agents. The first one is the Bookstock bot. This is going to be the knowledge assistant RAG chatbot. So this is all of our unstructured data. So data stored in Unity catalog volumes, our vector search indexes, all this containing curated staff recommendations, trending titles, new releases, customer purchase history, all that can be made for these tailored recommendations that really come from being able to extract key information and be able to pool the most relevant material. The next is the Genie space, and we heard a little bit about Genie. So this is our novel ideas Genie space, and this is where we put all our tabular data. So this is all our structured information, and it does more than just inventory tracking. So there's a lot that can be done and asked using this multi-agent supervisor. All right. We will improve quality in a second here, but just to kind of dive in, we can see that first it did ping the novel ideas inventory bot. We can see that, okay, it is out of stock, there's a restock date. I'm not gonna get too into the thought process here. You can go through every individual step that the agent took. I just wanna see the final result. So perfect, here's what I found. Restock information about the 5th season. November 5th is our restock date. And here are our top staff picks. And here's additional recommendations. But if I want to kind of improve the quality here, I can do so. Now, maybe I'd want less text, less information. I want to make sure that I'm only giving 3 recommendations. So I'm able to open a labeling session. And this is great if you have subject matter experts. Maybe I have book reviewers that I can send this to, and they could give me feedback for if these are good recommendations. So I've already opened this labeling session for the internet purposes. And here are my expectations. So I really want consistency. And these are the expectation guidelines I want for my agent as a whole. So only provide 3 recommendations. Don't recommend the sequel before they read the original. And at least 1 recommendation should be a staff recommendation. The other thing I noticed just at the bottom is that there's really there's no telling me if this is actually in stock. Like, is this hallucinating? Do we really have this book? Where is it located? So I could give feedback to add location of book. And we'll do this after the recommendation. After the recs, add location of book. Save that information, and then all I have to do is merge that feedback. Now we have the question, the guidelines, and feedback records. And so as I send this out to more subject matter experts, they'll get the guidelines, they can add to the guidelines, we can collect more feedback and continue this iterative process. So going back to configure, I'm just going to clear this history, re-ask the question. Now, it doesn't have to be the same book. I could ask a ton of variations. I just want to see the side-by-side comparison, so you know what's happening under the hood based on very specific feedback. I'm also interested to see what it does with that, where is this located? Because that was very broad. And I've seen this very model, sometimes it gives aisles, sometimes it gives very general locations in stores, sometimes it's just by genres. So let's see how it's dealing with that. All right, so still the same path, which is great. We want the path to start out in our inventory. And then it's going to hand over to our Bookstock bot. If you wanted to view the thoughts, this is what it's looking at. It's saying, okay, we're searching the staff recs, searching the summaries. Just going to collapse that. All right, and so now we have a kind of redefined answer, where we have 3 recommendations. There's no sequels recommended before the original, which sometimes it will do that. And seeing that we do have stack recommendations and our location of science fiction and fantasy section. Now, I'm able to go in and continue iterating on this, but I'm very happy with this. We were able to instantly pull in information, merge that, and just because I might have like 10 seconds left, if you're happy with your prompting, your guidelines, your feedback, you can go into the MLflow experiment, see all the individual traces from the questions we just asked, and actually add in evaluation metrics. So these can be LLM as a judge evals, they can be custom, and this is what really gets you those next steps for getting your agents ready for production. Thanks, everyone.
She is brave. I was like, are you sure you don't want to do kind of a recorded demo or fake it? And she looked at me like I had definitely just insulted something very, very deeply. She's like, it works. I want to do it as a live demo. So that's awesome. That should have given you a little bit of a sense of, how can you actually go out and build production agents. So we talked about 3 themes. So that was one on how do we simplify that process. Number 2 was then how do we actually prepare for intelligent applications? Great, you build AI, but you have to, kind of put them out, give them to the masses as well. So there's a couple parts to that. The first is underlying kind of applications is you need a database. Databases have been around for a very, very long time, but the reality was they were built for a very, very different era, right? So a couple of things that are a reality. One, there's a huge amount of lock-in with the databases that you have today. Definitely no notion of open formats, kind of much more proprietary. 2, they're extremely expensive in terms of what you actually want to do. And then lastly, many of them were built for a world where they were on-prem, and there hasn't been these like massive changes to support cloud in modern world. On this, AI is going to cause a massive disruption. So one interesting thing, right? Databricks acquired a company, Neon, recently as we were looking at statistics. What this chart shows you is how many of databases are created by humans, and you see that number stays relatively constant, is growing slightly. Agents, the rise of agents, and we talk about vibe coding on all those pieces, is leading to a massive rise in databases that are actually being created by these agents. So you need to operate in a world that actually understands this new reality and is built for it to support it far, far better. So inside of Databricks, one of the other pieces was this notion called Lakebase, right? Not surprising when we kind of said, hey, we need to transform how data warehouses look like with the data lake. We called it Lakehouse. We were very, very original, and now databases in that same concept is called Lakebase. So what does that actually mean? What does it give you, right? There's a couple of key parts. A, it is built on open source. If you actually look at databases, kind of more recently, the most popular database is actually Postgres, right? An open format of databases. It's built with that as a foundation, and also not just it kind of looks like it, we label it as something similar. It is Postgres. So all of those community extensions that you have, which is one of the best parts of open projects, work with it. 2, it actually separates compute and storage. One of the hard parts that you have is you basically have to build your system to maximize it for what do you want to do for compute or storage, which means you're over-optimizing for one or the other. In this one, it is storage is separate, compute scales up independently. That means really low latency, you can drive really high throughput, which is what you need for big applications, and you can deliver production SLAs on this, and at a much better cost. And then lastly, it is built for AI. So what that means is, hey, you actually need a database. You get it in less than a second, and you only pay for what you use. No more this concept of leaving large databases running for forever and ever, right? So that sounds really cool. What can I actually do with Lakebase? So a couple of popular use cases. One, it is very common that you want to take all of that analytics data, where in the old world, analytics was something after the fact that you just wanted to look at. But now you built analytics and you want to power, say, an AI application or something of the like. Today, that means you have to take that data, do reverse ETL, move it over into a separate database, not anymore with Lakebase. You can drive things like personalized recommendations and the like, and it just happens pretty much instantaneously. Second, you want to build actually new apps. You can, and we'll talk about that a little bit more here, you can do it directly on Lakebase. It's like, I need a database, I want to go out and do that. And you can see types of use cases like order processing and the like. And then lastly is that I have all this transactional data for my application, and I want to bring it in to run analytics on it in my Lakehouse, whereas previously I have to run a bunch of ETL. You don't need that anymore. So Lakebase automatically syncs the data that you have there. It's just one copy of the data, and it's governed by the same system. So, okay, we've transformed the databases like the foundation for building these applications, but that's not an application by itself. So for that, inside of Databricks, there's this notion called apps or applications. And look, if you talk to anybody today, the answer to applications is all of the future is going to be driven by vibe coding. I'm going to vibe code this, I'm going to vibe code that. Everybody can vibe code it. It's awesome. I can quickly spin up something. It's great. Well, if you're here, it means most of you work in an enterprise, and I don't know about you, but you can't really take an application and just say, I'm going to vibe code it. There's a whole set of issues that you have to deal with, right? How do you think about security? How do you think about managing state? How do you think about kind of moving it from basically dev, staging, and prod and the like? How do you upgrade it? There's a whole bunch of those, kind of complex pieces that require large teams and kind of large efforts to manage. But what if we could actually simplify this and make it far, far better? The way that you do that is, what if you could actually just move the application to data and AI? And so what that means from a Databricks perspective is that I now have AgentBricks, which is building these AI capabilities. I have DBSQL for all of these analytics capabilities, and I have Lakebase, an underlying kind of database. If I wrap it all together with Unity Catalog, that means if I bring the applications there, I get the benefits of all of those within my security and governance framework. So what makes it interesting? There's a couple of things. One, it is seamlessly integrated. All right, there's no more I have to build something separate. How do I bring that in? Second, it is secure and governed. So you can use all of the different services that you have available in Databricks, all of that data, but it stays within that security perimeter. So no more worrying about, here's a whole new set of kind of security, basically reviews that I have to go through. And then lastly, it's an open framework. So it's not some random proprietary framework for apps. All of the most popular frameworks you expect, you can easily use things like Lovable and Superblocks and Replit and like basically any of the vibe coding technologies, build these applications and power it to end users. And with this, honestly, we didn't do a great job of kind of marketing this. It's just organically taken off. And you can see tons of applications where organizations are using this for kind of very domain-specific applications for their business, powering it. Databricks Apps today has already had well into the tens of thousands of applications built using this framework because of the benefit that it brings. So intelligent applications is super important in Lakebase as well. Again, I always like to hear this in the words of customers. So with that, I'm pleased to welcome Dennis Michon on stage from easyJet to talk about what their journey has been like. Dennis, welcome to the stage.
Thanks, Arslan.
Of course. Come, please.
Thank you.
All right, Dennis, I know I was supposed to do a very long intro and talk about your life history, which, I kind of just bypassed that, but you guys have been doing some incredible things at easyJet, right? And you decided not to start with something small. You were like, let's actually transform the revenue management system, build it to a serverless UI-based experience. Maybe tell me about that.
Yeah, of course. So when I arrived in easyJet back in April, I was kind of tasked to modernize our revenue management system. And when I arrived, I kind of saw it was a time capsule. We had a .NET desktop application on the front, SQL Server in the back, various dashboards across teams. And yeah, it did the job. It worked, but performance was sluggish, integrations brittle, and scaling was a nightmare. And so, I was like, the industry is moving, right? Airlines want to become modern retailers. We want to get rid of fares and availability. No more PNRs. We want to have offers, orders, personalization, dynamic bundling. And so our legacy tools just can't keep up with it. And so during the summer, we did a proof of concept with Databricks where we tested out all the features, all the integrations. And once that worked, we made a very, very bold move. just to give a little bit of context on how complex our revenue management system is, and I appreciate that the number of repositories, the number of Git repositories is not a one-on-one benchmark, but we're talking about 386 Git repositories to deal with our revenue management system, just for the data and just for our user interface. So when I made the statement that I'm gonna refactor this in 3 months' time, I got some gray hairs for sure. But with Databricks, it's possible. We've got Databricks apps. They handle the infrastructure. We've got Lakehouse and Lakebase. They give us the performance, the flexibility, the governance that we need. And as such, our development teams can really focus on the business logic and not to deal with the plumbing. And we're now 6 weeks in. We have made amazing progress. I'm very, very thrilled where we've come from, where we are now, and I'm really looking forward to continue working with Databricks and the Databricks teams to make this happen, and we're ready for whatever comes next.
So the technologist in me obviously wants to keep hearing about all the cool technical pieces, but at the end of the day, your basically business stakeholders, what they care about is what are the outcomes, what are the tangible business benefits you're actually driving. So, I know we're early in the journey, but talk to me, what are some of the benefits you've seen by taking this bold journey?
Yeah, and just to give a little bit of insights on the application itself, right? So it's really becoming the heartbeat of revenue management. We've got a modern web application, just like a Node.js React on the front, fast API on the back, deployed on 2 separate Databricks apps. Instead of isolated systems, everything flows through the Unity catalog, unlocking through data intelligence. And as such, analysts will get their insights faster, and we no longer have these performance issues. But that's one thing, that's just a dashboard upgrade, an application upgrade. To me, this is really becoming, how I can see it, is that this new application is becoming our central hub for commercial decision-making at easyJet. It's not just ticket pricing, it's ancillary pricing, it's all of our network and schedule changes. Everything, we are gonna intend that all of our commercial teams are gonna work collaboratively on this one trusted system. And that's where Lakebase is gonna handle all the transactions, Lakehouse is gonna drive the analytics, we've got Lakeflow for all the ETL, and the system scales to meet demands of a modern airline retailer. And it's not just a faster system, it's a smarter system, more connected, more integrated, and ready for the future.
Well, you mentioned the future, so before I let you go, I am curious, you've now laid this foundation, as you look forward, what is it that has you the most excited? We've talked a lot about AI. How do you view of kind of flowing AI even more and more through the system? What's the future going to bring for easyJet and, kind of on this journey, frankly?
Yeah, and I think that's where it really becomes exciting, right? Because airline revenue management is based on 30 years, if not more, of science and know-how. And if I'm now going to say, or if you expected me to say that agents are going to replace that in 3 months, then you're wrong. I don't want that. I can. Those models and rules have guided us for decades. How I see that Genie and AI is going to help us is not that it's going to replace those things. It's only going to make us stronger. So looking ahead with Agentbricks and Lakebase, I can really see that this system is going to evolve from a traditional system of record into a modern system of data intelligence, right? So a system that doesn't just store information, but helps us, adapts with us, learns with us, but foremost supports us in our daily decision-making, our thousands of decisions that we have to make. So it's really, that is really the foundation of a modern data-driven airline, a platform where humans and AI collaborate seamlessly. And yeah, in that sense, I can realize easyJet's vision of getting a more personalized, a more agile, but foremost a more intelligent approach to serve our customers.
Awesome. Well, look, it's an exciting journey you guys have been on. You know, we're thrilled to be part of it and look forward to continuing to partner. But thanks so much for taking the time.
Thanks for having me. Yeah, amazing.
Dennis, everybody.
Thanks, Ursula.
Cheers. Thank you. All right. So we've talked now about simplifying production agents. How do you actually prepare for intelligent applications like some of the things that Dennis was talking about at easyJet? And the last one is now, how do we implement data intelligence? Remember, data intelligence was like, how do you actually make many of these, data capabilities available to the broader organization? So a couple of things. First, before we get to the excitement about analytics, before getting there, you have to start with having great data, right? So if you can't bring in high quality data, that's not even gonna help you. And so from a Databricks perspective, this notion of Lakeflow is really important. I won't spend tons of time on it, but Lakeflow is the end-to-end concept of data engineering, and there's 3 big parts. Connect, which is giving you connectors to all of your favorite data sources with a single click, bringing it in, whether it's from your favorite SaaS applications like Salesforce and Workday and ServiceNow to your transactional databases to saying now in the era of AI from places like Google Drive and SharePoint and the like, or even just your general files, bring them in. Declarative pipelines, which is an open, easy way of actually building those pipelines. And lastly, how do you orchestrate all of those workflows? But that sounds great. But remember, we talked about data intelligence said, how do I bring this to everybody and the masses? And as much as we've made, kind of all these systems easier, there is still the broader user that even the notion of using SQL or kind of low-level concepts is not what they're going to do. And so you kind of have these 2 different worlds, right, that exist. One, you have these more, let's call them complex pipelines, which are the heartbeat of the business. Lakeflow is great for that. But then everybody, when I go ask them, I was like, you have all of your data, right, sitting inside of Databricks. They're like, well, kind of. What I do have is I have these other people. They don't really like those systems, so they go use their own tool. And then they basically take that analysis, do some data prep on their own file, put in Excel, take basically build a graph, take a screenshot of it, email it around. That's what they do. So it's outside of the governance principle. It's outside of all of that. And by the way, it's hard to put it into production. So now people have looked at, can we solve this problem? And there's a whole bunch of vendors out there who've done a great job trying to do it, of saying, how do we give a little bit more structure? But there's a core problem that still remains even in this world, which is that it's completely separate. So one, these workflows are separate. So somebody built a system that does a data prep and then visualizes it, but then when you go to say, how do I actually put it in production? I don't know. They wrote it in a couple of scripts. Somebody else has to rewrite it. It's going to take a very, very long time. Doesn't use AI at all. And again, it's disjoint from everything else. So in our belief, this notion of data intelligence, which is, again, remember, it means that the AI understands everything about your data, everything about your world, should be able to make this much, much better, right? And so, with that, one of the things that we're most excited about is this notion of Lakeflow Designer. And so, Lakeflow Designer, what it actually means is that I'm going to give these end users this view, which is a pure drag and drop interface that they can use to build their own pipelines. And by the way, because it understands all the context of your data and your world, you could see in natural language, you can also tell it what you want and you can build it. One part that's not demoed here today is that you can take your end output. For many of these folks, they're building pipelines because there's a presentation, a table that they need to fill. You can paste in that slide and it will build the pipeline for you to give that data. So now you have these shared workflows because, by the way, even though this is, kind of a what you see is what you get interface, underneath, it's actually writing full, kind of pipeline code. So it's ready for production, and all of those kind of data engineers can look at it, make edits that you need, and AI that understands your business. So when you tell it, I really want to join these 2 types of data sets, it knows what those tables are and how to bring it together. So, okay, we've now helped actually get your data into the system. Now, how do I actually drive it to get BI in the hands of end users, right? I want it in everybody's hands. And for that, we have this concept called AI BI. And you either love the name or you hate the name. Some people say AI BI, it sounds like ABBA. I think our, CEO is like, it's like AC/DC with the slash. I think both of those are frankly weird ways to think about naming a product. But AI BI, right? It's like, how do you bring AI capabilities to your BI experience. So a couple of key things. One, we've seen massive growth in this system, over 500%, and you can see this was actually stopped at June. That rate has continued to grow. And it gives you a few things. One is actually dashboards for the modern era, right? So no more of systems that expect you to take massive extracts or kind of built for the old world with small data sets. You can get into everybody's hands, and one of the big things, it is at no additional cost. It is free. If you have Databricks, you can basically get this dashboard for all of your users. Incredibly fast because it's using the underlying systems, and everything that you do there runs through that unified governance system that we talked about, right? So you know what data you have access to. You can basically build modern pieces. This is great. So we have dashboards, but if you go and talk to kind of almost any enterprise, they'll say, I have a bunch of dashboards, but my dashboard library looks like the following. Let's say I have 10,000 dashboards, but it's really a zip distribution. There's a couple of them that people use regularly. They're always having it. But then for everything else, there's this long tail. And it's because somebody asked a question at some point, and then I had to go build a pipeline for it in a dashboard to do it. And maybe they look at it today, maybe that they don't. Is that a good idea? The reality is you cannot actually anticipate every question that somebody has. And oftentimes what people want to do is that they want to interrogate the data, they just want to understand it, and then they want to dig deeper. And dashboards are a fairly inefficient way of doing just that. So instead, what you really want is something like what we call Genie, right? And this means that you can go to the data that you have and just ask it questions, and not routing that question through a data team, or a data scientist that has to answer that question for you. Not that you need to build a dashboard for it, but you ask questions, and by the way, just like you would expect, it can ask you, let me make sure I understand this and that, and give you kind of fairly concrete both dashboards and answers to your questions. And what this means is you can query the data directly, with Q&A. It understands all of your enterprise content as well, like what data you have access to, what does it mean, so you don't have to just say, I know the name of the data set as an example, and it maintains context between all the sessions. So we've seen this become incredibly popular as a way for many, many users are exposing data to the end users without needing just dashboards or without needing heavy teams to drive it. To give a quick demo of what this looks like, please welcome Marjorie to the stage.
If you wanna run away with me, I know a galaxy and I can take you for a ride. I had a premonition that we fell into a rhythm where the music don't stop for life. Glitter in the sky, glitter in my eyes, shining just the way I like. If you're feeling like you need a little bit of company, you met me.
Hi everyone, my name is Marjorie Adriaansens, and I will be giving a quick tour of AI BI in Databricks. Let's start with Databricks 1. This is a new experience built for business users. Instead of the complex workspaces your data teams use, you have a simple, clean entry point to your data. This homepage is curated for me. It's got Genie spaces where I can ask questions of my data using plain English, as well as apps that enable me to use AI and analytics in my everyday workflows. This surfaces the data that matters most to me. In this demo, I'm going to be asking questions of our recent marketing campaign. However, Genie can be used across any use case or domain. Let's start with a simple question. Which marketing tactics drove the most qualified leads last quarter? Within a couple of seconds, Genie provides me with a response and even automatically adds a chart. The best part, Genie understands the business language. It already knows what a qualified lead is. This is because this space was curated for the marketing team and is governed by Unity Catalog. If I now accept this response, it will become the trusted definition across the business. Now, let's take it a step further. Let's ask something bigger. How can we optimize our funnel? Normally, that would be too broad. However, with Genie Research Agent, Genie builds a step-by-step plan, chooses what data to analyze, decides what part of the funnel to focus on, and then runs the analysis for me. In its response, it highlights where my marketing conversions are dropping, as well as next steps. And it provides all of the data to support this. That last part is key. Genie doesn't just provide a response, it also gives its reason why. This means that I trust it, as it has backed up by citations across my business. Genie is great for generating insights. However, when insights need to be tracked more regularly, we move to dashboards. AI BI Dashboards makes this simple. It has all of the BI features you would expect, including visualization, cross-filtering, and even scheduled email snapshots. It's all built in. No additional data extracts or management services needed. Now, let's focus on this marketing impressions chart. You will see a sudden increase and then a spike. I would like to understand what drove the spike this week. Within the chart, I can simply ask Genie to explain this increase. It will analyze the key drivers and even enables me to deep dive into, for example, the audience engagement. So, to conclude, I have shown you how Databricks One, Genie, Research Agent, and AI BI Dashboards enables everyone to go from a question to the why to a shared, trusted view across the business. This is how you turn curiosity into confident action. Thank you.
All right. So we talked about for bringing data intelligence in there. We talked about how do I actually get data into the system. We talked about what is that interface for users between kind of like AI, BI, and Genie and Databricks One. But there's one other piece, right? In order to power that, great BI requires kind of an absolutely like powerhouse of a data warehouse underneath, right? And so inside of Databricks, that is the DBSQL piece. No question about it, we've seen massive growth in the system of the uptake in terms of growth, in terms of what people are doing with the system as well. And it's really important that we continue to keep making our price performance and performance of the system better. This just shows you that same workloads of what you were running from back then to now, how much faster the systems have gotten. And what this allows us to do is to have the best TCO in the market. And this shows you, what Databricks has done relative to everybody else. This is always my favorite chart. They're like, we can absolutely not put names on this chart, but we're going to funnily cover one of them blue, and you can guess which one that is. Right? But it shows you what the TCO of Databricks looks like across different concurrency, across different data sizes. And it's why you've seen such incredible adoption and migration from other systems to there. Now, talking about migration, right? How do we actually make adoption happen faster? Because migrations are complex. If you look at it, any kind of natural data warehousing migration that you have a bunch of code, and then what's hard is you have all of this underlying systems there. And then for many of these data warehouses, the person who replaced the person who replaced the person who built the system in the first place just left and retired as well. So how do you actually migrate it? What that ends up meaning for many of these migrations is you have super high complexity, right? Second, it's very, very labor intensive. And third, in order to do it, everybody wants to say, won't LLM solve this? But a lot of those automated solutions lack accuracy because they don't have context. So what do you end up with for your migrations is throw a bunch of people at it and just hope. And ideally, you'll get there, but oftentimes it's more expensive and takes longer than you think. So within that, what Databricks has provided is fully open, this notion of a system called Lakebridge. So what does that give you? For analysis, it does basically a deep scan of the environment to give you an assessment of what does that path need to look like. And for most organizations, they're saying, I want to lift, modernize, and shift without introducing risk. So what does that look like? Second, There's an advanced LLM-based code converter, and there's a whole bunch of mechanisms behind that of how does it take that code and much more accurately, port it to the end state. Third, then with Lakeflow Connect, we talked about earlier, is how do you actually migrate the data? And then lastly, one of the hardest parts of migration is how do you do validation at the end? How do you make sure that the output of what I'm doing in the new system matches what I had in the old ones, right? So the reconciler helps with that. Over, kind of 20 legacy warehouses and systems are kind of supported. You can see many of them here. New ones are being added on a regular basis. And what Lakebridge then gives you is a bunch of benefits, which probably makes sense. It's one, much higher accuracy in the conversion. Second, much faster migrations at a lower cost. And then you get that modernized end state. You don't end up just migrating, but you haven't showed any tangible business benefits because you lifted and shifted it. You've moved it, you got these benefits, and you have a modern system that gets to take advantage of many of those capabilities we talked about earlier. And it is completely free, it is open, and it's been proven on hundreds of migrations already to this point. Okay, so we basically talked about this data intelligence platform. We walked through the open data format underneath, the governance, and all of these different capabilities on it. One of the great benefits also is many of you are already using Databricks, and for those who aren't, there is actually a free edition, free forever, right, that you can come in. Virtually all of Databricks that you can use, learn and experiment with it. We've made a huge investment in taking kind of all of our academies, all of the self-serve content that we had, made it available for users on there. It's already being used over tons of universities, and institutions as well, so you can get started. So as we've walked through this, one last thing that I want to do is bring up a last customer that will talk about their journey as they thought about how do they basically modernize their systems, how do they drive data intelligence for all. Please help me welcome Maggie Chung, the head of Enterprise Data Platform at Barclays. All right, Maggie, so Barclays, clearly a simple, small, bank that you have going on. You came in and you're like, look, I want to modernize many of these legacy platforms. I want to drive a bunch of change. What was behind that? Tell me a little bit about that journey as well.
Okay. Our data strategy is actually driven top-down from the board to build out a future-ready data platform that has industry-leading capabilities that enables my businesses to differentiate with data. Now, that actually encompasses all the way from the basic disciplines and some of the stuff that you already talked about of data management and governance to advanced analytics, real-time and BI insights, and the application of AI. We saw Databricks as a market leader in having those end-to-end data intelligence capabilities that supports the ambition we have on our enterprise data platform.
So, I know you still have much to do, but you've kind of made so much progress. Again, similar things. When you come in, you told them, I'm going to go on this journey. I'm sure there's a couple of people who hold their breath like, oh my God, is she crazy? Why? But you've also been able to show, obviously, some tangible business, kind of impact. So talk to me about what some of that impact has been that you've already seen and driven for the business.
Great. Yeah, people do think I run at 100 miles an hour, and lots of people think I'm crazy, by the way. So, yes, we've had actually, in our data intelligence initiatives, we've actually delivered quite a lot of tangible benefits in a few of our business areas already. From exiting legacy technology to improving customer service to introducing real-time insights to areas such as fraud. If I use a couple of examples, we were able to migrate one of our investment banking legacy warehouse into Databricks in just 4.5 months. Now, that was a record for us, But the beauty of it wasn't that I just exited a piece of legacy technology. The beauty of it was my business is now able to do things it was never able to do before. For example, they've completely transformed how they do BI. Another good example is with our retail US consumer bank. We built a Service 360 data product. And with that data product, we were able to drive improvements to customer service at the same time as reducing cost to serve.
That's awesome. So now, one of the hard parts about being at a bank, a large bank like Barclays, is obviously you guys have just a few regulatory controls that are important to you, right? And I remember in our early conversations, you said, look, governance is going to be critical for us. We have all these silos. Like, if we don't get governance right, there's no way we can leverage many of these tools. We can't kind of be successful. And you guys have gone full hog into using Unity Catalog and establishing that in many ways as this backbone of governance. So we'd love to hear a little bit more about that, especially given how prominent and important governance is for a place like Barclays.
So cataloging and metadata, in fact, is at the heart of our data strategy. It goes far beyond just the data management disciplines and governance, in fact. We believe that the rate at which technology is moving today, agility is key. And actually, in order to do agility safely, metadata is king, is precious. We have built an overarching enterprise metadata hub that brings together our business metadata, technical metadata, operational metadata, and data product metadata. And my objective to my team this year is, in fact, take me from that metadata, knowing what I've done, to that metadata telling me what I need to do. And the Unity Catalog and its integration capability is at the heart of us achieving that.
Awesome. So I know I'm over, but I got to ask one more, question. You've already done so much so far. Talk to me a little bit about your vision for the future, right? We've talked about things like Lakebase and Databricks, but as you think about those capabilities and otherwise, what is your vision of, what you're eager to do going forward?
So like you say, there's, I think in what we've already talked about, there's so much excitement in AI, of course, but to me, when we went to your conference in June, we got so excited with some of your capabilities that with our Databricks team, and I love our Databricks team, we ran a series of follow-up immersion sessions with our technology areas and our business areas across the bank. And to me, capabilities like Lakebase is game-changing. That ability to bring structured operational data together with analytics data and capability is a problem I don't think anyone else has solved out there. In fact, our business is so excited, they're all fighting to be the front runner with me for introducing this capability. And Databricks, I think, is also very interesting. Our focus on Databricks isn't how can I build loads and loads of solutions. Actually, our focus with Databricks is, in fact, how can I use that capability, the capabilities, to help my business scale AI much more efficiently and safely. For example, you've talked about quite a lot of those kind of capabilities already today. The capability of putting LLM ops onto any model that we have built, regardless of whether I've built them in Databricks or not. So what I really love about these new capabilities is how I can easily integrate them into our data platform and strengthen the foundational data intelligence capability. It's actually that approach is quite different to many other people out there, but I actually think is a very smart way of empowering innovation in the organization.
Awesome. Well, Maggie, exciting to see what you've done in a short period of time and exciting to see where you go next and partner along that journey. But thank you so much.
You.
Thanks so much. Okay, so just to kind of sum up today, we talked about a couple of things, right? First off, we said, how do you simplify production agents, right? Using AgentBricks as an example, all of this built on that foundation of open data and unified governance. Second, how do you prepare for intelligent agents, right? Both of transforming at the database level and then at the application level as well. And then lastly, how do we implement data intelligence, right? From getting all of the data of high quality in, including for less technical users, having an interface through AI, BI, Genie, and dashboards in Databricks One to deliver them, and a powerful data warehouse that underpins all of that. So hopefully that was helpful. With that, let me please welcome Michael Green back onto the stage. Thanks, everybody.
Okay, thank you everyone. Awesome keynotes, awesome discussions. I want to say a big thank you again to Maggie, to Dennis, and also to the excellent demos by Marjorie and Amber. So a big round of applause for them again today, please. Thank you. Okay, so now we are going to break. We are going to head towards the lunch. It's 11:30. The expo is open. Lunch will be served for you, depending on your own agenda builder. Some are straight into breakouts now. Others are into breakouts from 1 o'clock. Those of you that are in the exec forum, please do follow the signs up to the 3rd floor for that. That will begin in 30 minutes, but again, you can go and get lunch ahead. So I generally do encourage you, please, now's the time to go to the expo, spend the time with the partners, see what's going on there. And later, just as a reminder, there is the networking session for all of us from 5 till 6, open to all. Again, that will be in the expo. And for those that are signed up to after parties, the after parties start from 6:30, either at the boat or at the wharf. And if you couldn't get into the after parties, please do ping your account team, grab a Brickster. More than happy to accommodate you and continue the conversation and the data and AI journey. So last thing from myself is just to remind you, date for your diary, 15th to the 18th, San Francisco next year, Data and AI Summit. Why is that super important? Hotels get booked, flights get booked. Get in there early, secure your place. Thank you again. It's been wonderful to see you all this morning. Enjoy the rest of the day. Thank you.
Let me tell you. Girl, you my little boo thing. So I'll give a hoot what you do. Say, girl, I know you a little too tame. I'll be shooting at